In this video, I'm going to tell you 5 things you absolutely need to know before you attempt recreational blue crabbing in the state of Florida. These rules are a little bit different than what you may be used to back home, and you've got to know these things so you don't find yourself subject to a hefty fine, have your gear confiscated, or worse, inadvertently harm some of the local wildlife. The first thing you need to know is that as of March 2023, the throat or the entryway into your crab trap can be no larger than 2 inches by 6 inches at the largest point, or have one of these bycatch reduction devices, also sometimes called turtle excluders, affixed to the opening. This will reduce the size of the throat on your crab trap to the required 2 inches by 6 inches. The point of these BRDs or turtle excluders is to keep the diamondback terrapin from inadvertently getting into your crab trap and not being able to escape. You can often find BRDs on Amazon, or if you purchase crab traps from Bass Pro or Cabela's, they include the BRDs and other features that make them compliant with FWC requirements. The second thing you need to know is your traps have to be equipped with a degradable panel that's at least 3 inches by 6 inches. The reason for this is that if your trap is lost or abandoned, this degradable panel will eventually disintegrate, allowing whatever's in the trap to escape before it starves to death. The FWC gives you 7 different methods of being compliant with this requirement. The first, and in my opinion probably the easiest way to upfit your existing crab trap, is to use untreated jute twine to hook to your crab trap opening. This means that instead of hooking the hook on your crab trap that closes the lid to the wire itself, which would effectively never come undone, you would hook it directly to the untreated jute twine. If this was abandoned, eventually over time this is going to disintegrate, allowing this opening to come free and whatever's in the trap collection area to escape out into the water. You're probably going to want to keep an eye on that jute twine. If you use these crab traps a lot, replace that, refresh it every so often so that you don't inadvertently lose your catch if you are actively tending your traps. The FWC does not list a minimum or a maximum diameter for this untreated jute twine, so there's not really a clear designation as to when jute twine becomes jute rope. The responding officer on the scene may have a different opinion, so try to keep the diameter reasonable. You also don't want it to stay hooked for too long because then it defeats the purpose. If the trap was lost or abandoned, you want whatever's inside to be able to escape. Other methods include untreated pine dowels, untreated pine slats, and non-coated steel wire. Unlike the untreated jute twine, each of those methods does have size restrictions on the FWC website. Third, the FWC needs to know who you are. You're going to accomplish this by attaching a permanent ID tag to your crab trap. The ID tag can be any number of things. I use these engravable dog tags. You could use another ID tag as long as it doesn't have ink that's going to wash off or the tag's not going to become disconnected from your trap. Engraved on it has to be your name, address, and a crab trap registration number. The registration numbers are unique to you, and the FWC gives you these. In addition to your saltwater fishing license, you just indicate that you're a recreational blue crabber. They give you a recreational ID that's good for up to 5 crab traps. Different states have different requirements for your buoys that mark your crab traps. In Florida, there's no requirement that I can find for the shape of your buoy, but it does have to measure at least 6 inches across, and it has to have a legible R, stands for recreational, that's at least 2 inches tall on the buoy. You guys might have seen Deer Meat for Dinner wound up on the wrong end of this requirement a couple of years ago where he had an R on the buoy, but it wasn't clearly legible and resulted in a hefty fine. It was completely inadvertent and innocent, but you don't want to wind up on that side of the requirement. Last, check your calendar before you go crabbing. The entirety of the state is open for crabbing the majority of the year, but you do want to check and make sure that there's not a short closure window in the time that you're going to be crabbing in Florida. Generally speaking, the waters on the east coast of Florida are subject to short closures on even-numbered years, whereas the Panhandle, the west coast of Florida, and the Florida Keys are subject to short closures on odd-number years. These short closure windows are important because it helps identify the lost and abandoned crab traps that need to be removed from the waterways. This isn't an exhaustive review of all of the blue crabbing regulations in Florida. For that, you're going to want to go to the Florida Wildlife Commission website at myfwc.com. They spell it all out for you there very neatly and cleanly. Very easy to understand. That's it for us, you guys. I hope you found this useful and informative. If you did, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button. It sure does help us out. We've got a ton more content like this on the channel. We wish you all the success in the world on the water. God bless. We'll see you next time.